Hello, my name is Dr. Denise, and this is this week's A Dose from Dr. Denise, where I hope to teach, show, and inspire you how to release your God-given health and life potential. Wow, what a week it's been for all of us, not just Americans, but for everyone in the world, which is unbelievable and shows how interconnected we all are. I moved from Beaumont, Texas last week, about 3-4 hours south along the border to Aransas Pass. We're still getting unpacked, and we're holding up here for a few weeks. Luckily, my husband's able to work remotely a bit. So there's 3 things that I want to discuss with you regarding this virus that's affecting all of us. And the first thing is that, they keep talking about flattening the curve, which of course is very important. I did a lot of math in my undergraduate, and when they talk about flattening the curve, what that means, as you know, is that along the x-axis is time, and so when you flatten a curve, you lengthen the time that we're going to go through this. And so that's, of course, to ease the burden on our healthcare system and delivery system. And so we all are collectively sharing the burden, if you will, on each other and on our healthcare system by lengthening the time. So the first thing that I wanted to share is that it's a really incredible reminder that Earth time, 24/7 Earth time, is not universal time. It is not God time. I think the planet's like a little less than 4 billion years old. I think the universe is a little less than 14 billion years old. And so our time is nothing compared to God's time. And so we have to remember that this is going to take time, and it certainly is going to teach us patience. We have become a nation and a world that wants instantaneous everything, and we're not going to be able to get that with this. So that certainly is one positive thing that will come out of it. The second thing that I want to share with you is that, we're all collectively at times going to feel fear or sadness or grief or depression, just a generalized anxiety. And of course, that's completely normal. So we shouldn't just try to just shut that down with positive thinking, because that won't work. It will make you even more stressed out by doing that. But I do think that it is a time to go into a quiet and solitude when you're feeling that. And I think a great analogy for those feelings of fear and anxiety is the ocean. And so I want you to imagine that you are floating near the edge of the waves and where you can't touch. And when a big wave will come, you kind of jump up, and sometimes the wave goes over your head, but it might be scary for a second, but you know that it's going to pass. Or let's say that you're in the ocean and you come upon a rip current. And what do they tell you in a rip current? They tell you not to fight it, to just allow the rip current to take you where it will, allow you to float away where it will, and then you can float toward or swim towards the shore. And so it's a wonderful analogy about our feelings. We're going to feel the sadness and the grief and the anxiety, but you let it just pass right through. You don't turn it into much action. You try not to fight it with positive thinking, but just go quiet, and you'll see that it will absolutely pass. And when you do that, then you don't turn that emotion into an endocrine response of stress, of cortisol, because that's what really starts to affect our physiology. And the third thing that I want to say is that this is it is a deadly virus, and so for people over 80, it's a much higher death rate at like 15%. But it also means that there's a very high chance of survival rate. So no matter what your age, if you were to get infected by this virus, there's a small percentage that we could die, right? But there's a much larger percentage that you won't. And I think we need to focus on the much larger percentage of it. And the other thing is that if you were to test positive for this virus, the beautiful thing about human physiology is that for the rest of your life, you will have natural immunity to this particular virus. And that's an incredible thing. So we have to be grateful for that. And it also is allowing me to continue to explore how, we're so afraid of dying in this world. And, none of us are getting out of here alive. We need to embrace it. In the last few weeks, I read a couple books on near-death experiences. I read a book called The Light Between Us. And I think that any person who's had a near-death experience shares a very, very similar story, that what's coming after this life is so much more incredible than what we're going through right now. And so perhaps this is a time for us all collectively to just face our fear of death and recognize that it is absolutely part of life, as we know. So I made a list of things that you could do during this downtime. And I wanted to say this also is that, back in November and December, during the craziness of the Christmas holidays, if I were to tell you that you could have 1, 2, or 3 months off of a staycation, you probably all would have jumped at the chance of it, to just be home and be able to be with your family. And now that's being forced upon you. And so embrace that. There are things that you can do for these next few weeks and perhaps months, depending on how long this is going to take us. But you can read, you can write, you can take online courses and do online training, you can cook, you can clean, you can declutter, you can walk, you can do exercises outside, you can do push-ups, you can do squats, you can do burpees, you can play board games, you can teach your children, you can read to your children, you can spend time with your children, you can watch wonderful, uplifting movies. You can shut off the television. You can go through photo albums, clean out closets. You can sleep. You can meditate. You can learn how to meditate. You can sit outside. You can learn how to be. You could learn one new skill, like learning a new language or playing chess. And so there are all the things that we get to do for these next few weeks. And the last thing, and I'm going to conclude with this, is that I'm not sure what your faith is. I pray that you have one. I pray that you have some type of wisdom tradition that you follow. I'm a Christian, and so for my fellow Christians, I believe in this book. I have complete and absolute and utter faith in what I have learned in this textbook. And so this is where the we get tested. So it's really easy to be a Christian when everything's wonderful. But because I have faith in this word, I know that I know that I know in the deepest part of my soul that there is a purpose, that we're all going through this, and that the light will continue to shine in and through each and every one of us. So peace out. I'll be praying for all of you, and I'll see you next Sunday.